Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time of day you're actually watching this video. I'm joined today by Gavin Jones from the Gavin Jones Consultancy. Say hi, Gavin.
Good morning, everybody. Evening,
For those of
afternoon,
you,
whatever time of day it is.
absolutely, we don't know what time of day people will be watching this. So for those people that don't know me, my name is Karl Lehmann. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Dream It, Plan It, Live It. And I'm doing this little series called Coffee with Karl, because we couldn't conjure up a better name. But we are primed with mugs of liquid here.
Yeah.
So the idea behind this is really to help business owners not just survive but thrive in the current economic climate. So our guest today, Gavin Jones, as I say, from the Gavin Jones Consultancy. Gavin, talk me through what your consultancy does and why you're different to other types of consultancy out there in the marketplace.
Okay, so we generally work with SME businesses, typically from $500,000 to about 20-25 million. We've got quite an holistic practice, so we've got some strategic guys, we've got a bunch of finance people, we've got some change managers in the HR space, and we've got some sector-specific guys as well that will cross those channels. So we work quite hard at becoming a part of the team that we work with. So I think my frustration about consultancy and the stigma that comes with it is someone comes in, getting out of a flash car, poking around the business, write a nice 4 or 5 page report, which they've probably done to 5 or 6 other clients in the past, charge you an arm and a leg for it and walk off into the distance. When we vet our guys to bring into the practice, they're quite heavily vetted and they have to have real-time life experience of growing and exiting a company. So I look at us being all but business Sherpas. So we've kind of walked up the mountain several times and probably fallen down more times than we care to mention, but can provide that safe path. So when you're sort of engaging with us, you're engaging not just with the time that we've got, but also the years of experience that we have. That's we've had the financial pain and the issues that have gone with that, and we try and steer you away from it, essentially.
I think that's a really valid point, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people out there who do set themselves up as coaches or consultants or whatever label they want to use. But actually, you know, they might not have the necessary, you know, business and life experience to be the person that actually, you know, guides people. I love that phrase, the business Sherpa. So tell us a little bit more about that, and you know how you really sort of get into the kind of nuts and bolts of a company.
So it amazes me, Carl. Most people start a business out of necessity or will.
Yeah.
No one knows all the answers, but you know. So, for example, if I want advice on investment, I'm not going to stab myself. I'm going to come to you because you're an expert. Conversely, I think when people start a business, they know their trade really well, whether that be an IFA, whether that be a builder or a plumber or a marketeer or run a care home or whatever it is, a hotel, and they know their trade really well. But actually, the mechanics of business go far deeper than that. And if you're in a PLC, you've got a really enriched board that will have HR, finance, operations, marketing, sales, processing, all these experiences that you probably as an SME can't afford.
Right.
If you can afford them, you can afford them at quite a junior level.
Yes.
You know, I don't know many SME businesses that will have 6, 7, 8 board members on 150k plus that are thriving, because it just can't support that salary. So what we tend to do is come into a business where we can give maybe a day a week, a couple of days a month of our experience to guide that ship, leave the owner feeling supported, come back in a week's time, hold them to account as well, which is really important, I think, and use that wealth of experience to get them where they want to, but on a real shoulder-to-shoulder type level. So at the moment, we're engaging with some clients that are obviously having a bit of distress through the lockdown and the COVID period. We're probably feeling as much pain of their business as they are. And, you know, I know from speaking to some of our finance guys, they're having as many sleepless nights probably as their clients about getting them, you know, CBIL applications over the line and getting a real robust financial plan to be able to get them out the other end. So they really feel like they're what we call insource rather than outsource. So they feel the pain as much as the company owner. And I suppose that's what makes us a little bit different. We're not hands off, we're very hands on.
So paint me a picture of how you see the landscape moving over the months ahead as lockdown, you know, eases, and we see businesses starting to get back to the new normal, whatever that is.
Mm.
So just paint me a picture of how you see sort of businesses kind of really developing over the next 6-12 months, and what actions can business owners take in order to, really...
Well, I'll start off. Yeah, I had a meeting yesterday with a large private equity firm, and one of the guys there was an ex-restructuring guy for a global bank. His words to me, which have echoed in my head, which was, no one's been in this situation before, and if they said they have, they're lying. So we've got an ex of a global bank who are saying we don't know what's going to look like. So probably if I was going to go to anybody for that type of advice, it would be him, and he doesn't know. So there is no game plan that's been used historically. So we're kind of just posing on information about things like foot and mouth and Ebola and really sort of severe depressions in the past and that type of stuff. But it's not normal to say that we on a Monday morning or on a Friday afternoon rather, we're going guns blazing. On the Monday morning, the taps have been completely turned off of all income, which is what's happened in most businesses. Is just, I hate using the unprecedented word, but it's completely unprecedented. Can't use any other word than that, although everyone's used it on the news to death. Coming back out, I think it very much depends on each sector. So some haven't been really affected at all, and people in your space have been kept as busy as ever, and we just had that conversation. Conversely, if you're talking about a hotelier or a restaurateur, they've literally seen no customers probably for that period, or they've learned to pivot by doing takeaway or click and collect and that type of stuff, which has probably given them 20% of revenues. Luckily, the furlough stuff's gone really well, but now I think it's a time about having a best guess and using, if you've got it in your business, your finance person. If you haven't, then to bring in a finance person to do something what we call a sensitivity analysis, or what if analysis, which is to take your previous numbers, put a budget together, use some pivot tables to say, what if it's 25% of income? What if it's 50? What if it's 75? What if it's back to where we were? And then you can really measure your overhead provision against that. Most companies at the moment are doing okay. I think, and if you look at any great insolvency practitioner firm, they'll say they're busiest actually when people are coming out the other side, not during the period itself where people are mothballing and settling down. So I spoke to a client last week that has £1 million of new orders, which is great, but they've used up all their cash reserves in lockdown. They're at their most vulnerable right now because they're trying to service a lot of new business with no working capital, which they're going to overtrade very quickly, and then that becomes a real problem. So I think to answer your question, it's around understanding your business. And if you've been trading 3, 4, 5, 10 years, great, then you've got some really good management information there to play with. But to really sit down and measure a plan against multiples of revenue from where you were, and then looking at your overhead provision and trying to make a best call on how much staff you need, how many vans you need if it's a construction firm, what office space you need, and trying to cut your cloth accordingly.
So, for business owners that might be watching this video right now, and they might see, well, actually, I recognise that I need some help in the business, but to get somebody like you and your team in, how do they see that as an investment rather than an expense when they're in the mindset probably at the moment of just counting pennies?
Yeah, that's a very good point. We measure that in the business because obviously we get access to financial data. We normally give a 3 to 4 times return of the investment into, and we're not the cheapest firm around, especially in the Southwest, and nor will we want to be. But you have to think about this as having that expertise to be able to grow. If you've got the expertise in your firm, great, brilliant, no problem. If you've got that expertise in your firm full time, you might want to trim that down and make them go part time. But going back to the Sherpa exercise, I use this analogy a lot about trying to talk to a business owner about you're about to climb Mount Everest in a pair of flip flops. It ain't going to work. It really isn't going to work. So you've got to have the right gear, if you like, the right resources to take the business forward. Yes, it's not. It's not a. We don't do this for free. Obviously, we're a business that tries to make profit. But I think to have small pockets of time, to have the right person to hold you by the hand and take you out the other end, is going to stand you in far better stead than if you try and do it on your own. As an example, I can work my hands as long as I'm on this planet. If something ever goes wrong with my car, if I took it apart, it probably cost me 3, 4, 5 times the amount to try and get a real expert mechanic in to put it back together. therefore I'm handing that over to a mechanic and saving myself time and money. So that's kind of the analogy that we use with clients, but it really is about them getting best value of someone who's done this time and time and time and time again, where this might be their first time that they're in a situation.
That's a great analogy, I think. And, you know, the little phrase that I often say when I'm speaking is that people don't know what they don't know.
No.
And, you know, it's by having, I mean, no matter who you are, you know, we all need a mentor, we all need a coach, we all need a strategic, you know, I mean, we talk in my business about how, you know, we all have a unique ability. I know what my strengths are, I know what my weaknesses are, and the team that then sit around me, you know, they're all playing to their own unique abilities. And I think that's really important at a moment like this, where you've got challenge in the market, but also whatever market conditions there are always opportunities. And it's just how you react to those. And having met a number of your team, you know, some of them actually online over the last sort of couple of weeks or so, as a result of being able to use Zoom like this, they all strike me as being, you know, resilient. They've had successes and failures in business. They've worked with some extraordinarily, you know, diverse businesses in different countries around the world. You've got a great team of people around you, is my sense.
Yeah, they're chosen very carefully. They're chosen very slowly. It takes me probably 3 months to onboard and get enough information on an associate to bring them in the business. They've all got great pedigree, as you say, and they've all got, you know, they're all far better at what they do than me, essentially. And I'm a great believer that if you're going to hire anyone, they've got to be better at you at doing what you want them to do. Otherwise, what's the point? You might as well do it yourself and save yourself some money.
Sure.
Which just always goes back to the SME owner, which is, you know, we see a lot of guys that are really good at selling. Well, carry on selling, but then have the back office division, the finance, the operations looked at by someone who's better at it. If they're a back office guy, then bring in someone who can help with the sales. I know you're speaking to Rob on that next week. It's about horses for courses, as you've absolutely said, and you can't be everything. But I think a lot of business owners in that sort of 500,000 to 20 million space try and do everything themselves. I get it, because it's their baby, and, you know, those of us with kids know that to hand over your kid to someone else is a real difficult thing to do. However, in order to make that business blossom and grow and thrive, you've got to let go, because you're not going to know everything. I don't know everything in business, nor do I profess to. And, you know, I suppose the whole part of our network is that we've got people with different skills, who've worked in different environments across the world for some of them 10 years, some of them 50 years, who can pull on those experiences in the past and say, we've got that. And, you know, we meet weekly as a team to discuss those pieces of work to make sure that there's a fully enriched answer going back to a client rather than just what that one person knows. So that's probably the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking just before we started this call, weren't we, about how a lot of businesses don't have that kind of end vision in mind, you know, so the whole kind of Stephen Covey principle of begin with the end in mind. And for anybody who follows me, you know, obviously, you know, this book, you know, Dream It, Plan It, Live It is all about getting some crystal clear clarity about what it is that you want from your life, where you want to be. I'm just curious, in terms of thinking about, you know, what you do, you talk about exit strategy, you talk about business growth, you talk about customer journey mapping. You know, is there any space right now for people to actually think more longer term, you know, or is it just right here, right now, just looking here? I mean, what's your sense on that, Gavin?
Should they be looking longer term? Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of older business owners, and I'm talking 50 plus, who are now for the first time realizing, do I really want to go through this all over again? If there's a COVID 2025 and we're back to square one, do I really want to go through this heartache and pain again of furloughing staff and hanging on by my fingertips? No. So it's made people who I think really understand their own business needs and their own life needs. So, you know, I think that's where wealth management and business consulting overlap considerably, because we're talking about the exit in mind at all times. But also, if you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going. And to get in your car and put into the sat nav, take me anywhere, it ain't going to take you anywhere. If you're going to say, and I say it's a lot to clients, you know, if you live in Plymouth, which is where I'm sat, and you say, take me to Inverness, it will plan the whole route, but it'll only say you got to get to Ivybridge to start with, because that's all you need to know. And then it will take you to Exeter, and then it will take you to Bristol, and it will break it down into small chunks, which is kind of what we try and do as a business is to not let them become overawed and daunted with getting their M&S. It's about saying, what do we need to do in the next month, the next quarter? And we normally take a year's business plan at a time. We write a 3-year plan, break it into a year, break it into quarters, break it into the month, break it in the week. So it's like, this is what you need to achieve in the next 5 working days. Can you do that? Yes or no? And that then becomes far more appealing and far more deliverable to a business owner than saying, we need to exit for 10 million quid in 5 years. Because they don't know where to start. Going back to, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we try and break it up.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of big, scary goal that's out there can be almost too intimidating sometimes. And I know the analogy that we have is we kind of break that down into kind of daily standards. What is it today you need to do as a good habit in order to kind of get you, incrementally along that way? I guess you and I might talk about compounding and compound growth, and the growth of money on money, it's just phenomenal over time. So if you've got a 5-year exit plan strategy, then, you just need to, I was interviewing somebody else actually on the Coffee with Karl series, a guy called Mark Village, and Mark used to be CEO of international Christian charity, and he said, some of the tasks they had were just huge, and he used the reference, what was his analogy? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time is the answer. And I'm just curious, what is the best piece of advice you would give to anyone in business right now?
It's, I think, trying to see past the immediate pain and understand that you need to get your new operation strategy. So revise your customer journey. And I did this for a few clients in the last few weeks, and so have my guys a lot. Even our finance guys are now starting to get into that mode. So it's revise your customer journey. And actually it's about being, what you and I have done pretty well for this, I think, without sort of pom-pomming each other too much, is to be visible in the marketplace. I think a lot of people have gone, I'll follow all my staff, I won't follow myself, or I'll follow myself even as a director and just do the bare minimum responsibilities that I need to take up. The problem with that is, if your competitors are putting themselves out there and just building the brand, which is what I think a lot of us have done. We've won some clients in lockdown, and more than I anticipated, to be fair. But we've done a lot around brand awareness. We've done a lot of give back like you have in terms of RC experts across the country, Leicester, Birmingham, Manchester, down in the southwest. Given back a lot, talked to clients on a very general basis, exactly like this, about their information, and then push themselves forward. Take that back to the SME owner, really getting your marketing strategy right. I've tripled my marketing spend in lockdown, much to my marketing company's absolute delight. Obviously, but I'm sweating the asset pretty hard on that to make sure that we're getting good bang for buck. So we've revised our website, we've looked at our provision, we've done a lot of campaigns, and we continue to do more. That's the kind of stuff that I would really look to for SMEs to do if there's budget available. And I know there's been some great support from the government in terms of C-bills and bounce backs. The HMRC have been fantastic about giving you a lot of breathing space in terms of your VAT returns and your PAYE and all that type of stuff. Use this time effectively to, I think, reposition yourself, pivot your business, and then tell as many people as you can, both your existing clients and new clients, what you're doing, so that when they are in a position to come out and use your product, use your services, if that's what it takes, then you're in absolutely the best position.
I think there's some really great words there, redesign, pivot your business. I guess in my field, most financial advisors are run for the hills. When the stock market falls, they don't want to have those unpleasant conversations. Your wealth management statement is down this amount of money. Whereas, when it happened, when the market crashed back in March, the first thing I said to my practice manager, Dawn, was, right, give me a list of all our vulnerable clients. Give me a list of all of these people. And for days, I just literally, got on the phone, was very visible to people. And do you know what? Human, no matter who's running a business, it's a human being that's running a business at the end of the day. And they were saying, do you know what? Thanks, Karl. I really appreciate that call. And it's just being compassionate, I guess, really. But tell me more about that customer journey, because I think that's an interesting one, because the customer journey has changed massively in the last couple of months, hasn't it, really? In terms of what the normal was and what it might be going forward. Tell me about that customer journey and you think about that.
So I suppose the people that are affected most are probably the leisure and hospitality industry. Guy Paolo Peretti heads up our Australia division, and I've had many calls with him over the last few months, and we're about to get appointed on a national restaurant chain to help support them in their sort of post COVID lockdown operating. It's completely changed. So there's going to be either 2 meters or a meter in terms of where they are. So if you remember, piling into your local pub on a Friday night where you had to squeeze past everybody to get to the bar, those days are gone. It's now social distancing, probably having to order from a table. So if you take it purely on a customer journey map perspective, before going right back, before you even engage, you might have looked at the menu online, or you might have seen some reviews online from TripAdvisor or wherever. That's where the customer journey starts in your own head. You're thinking about what that experience would look like. You're anticipating what it would feel and look like when you go. And then you finally make a booking and you arrive, and lead up out your car into the door is a big thing, first impressions. And then you're seated by somebody, and someone looks after you for the evening and takes your orders, and you sit there and do very little apart from maybe go to the toilet, but everything else is done for you. That's going to have to pivot now, I think, especially in places like casual dining, where there'll be an app where you'll probably be seated somewhere social distancing. There'll be a big gap between you and the other tables, and you'll order from an app like you do at Wetherspoons. So it's far less intimate, and it means that customer journey is pretty much turned on its head.
Yeah.
So on that basis, we're engaged with clients at the minute about saying, how many can we have in? What other revenues can we generate? Because if you've got a 100-seat restaurant and now you can only seat 35 people, you're either going to put your prices up by 3 times, which is going to turn customers off, obviously, because they're getting the same experience as before, but for 3 times the price, or you're going to have to look at that revenue elsewhere. So having then multiple customer journeys, one might be a click and collect, one might be a delivery, one might be an in-seat restaurant, and in some cases we're talking to some national supermarket chains about creating some of those best dishes they've ever had and then putting them into the supermarket shelves so that they can buy it online and buy it through their own shopping experience. So that's one example, I suppose. So to be able to take that and push it across different industries is kind of the key thing.
That's as you were talking now, I was thinking about the whole Wetherspoon experience, and the fact that you've got your app and they bring it to the table, and people that can embrace the technology. I think technology will play a big part in this, won't it? Really going forward, is really quite an interesting development there. Is there anything else that you think we should be sort of bringing out as a discussion point today? What are the kind of top 2 or 3 things that are in your mind from your experience of dealing with businesses?
I suppose the other bit that we've not talked about yet is raising capital.
Okay.
A lot of companies that had quite healthy balance sheets up until February have now depleted a lot of the cash reserves. So now it's about essentially replacing that capital. And I had this conversation with you pre the recording. The most dangerous time for any client is coming back out of lockdown or back out of recession, sure. Because you're going to have to try and do more and more with less and less. So having the right capital reserves in place to be able to fill orders and then deliver those orders to those clients in a timely fashion is really key. And raising debt is becoming more difficult for obvious reasons, unless it's a government-backed scheme. If you've not been eligible for a government-backed scheme, say you've just got a bounce-back loan, which seems to be the easiest method of getting capital, might not be enough. To look at other possibilities. So within Devon, Birmingham now, and Leicester, we've just launched a small investor hub for companies that need capital and to attract business owners who have got large cash surpluses, who haven't been affected by lockdown, who can then invest some of that money into a smaller company and not only then give them the necessary capital to grow, but also the experience, which again, goes back to, you can't really buy that. The bank manager is not going to hand you 20 years of business experience along with a check and a repayment. They're going to hand you some money. So that's something I think that businesses really need to consider, and probably for the first time now, even small companies consider an equity raise rather than a debt raise, and look at that as being not something that's a failure, but actually to embrace it and bring a new brain into the business and some fresh thinking, along with some well-needed capital. So that will be something I would look at and speak to every small business owner from £500,000 to 20 million quid to say, is now the right time to bring that type of capital into the business.
And can you help facilitate that? What's the services that?
Yeah, so we within the Investor Hub, we will take a lead from a potential client, we'll take them through and get them investor ready for a very small amount of money. And then we'll push them to where we think suitable investors. So to take you through the customer journey, I suppose, if you like, very briefly, work with one of our finance directors, get your numbers right, get yourself investor ready, get a business plan written for 3 years. From that, we then write an investor deck for you, which isn't something, it's a PowerPoint presentation for those who don't know what that is. And from that, we'll write a teaser, which is basically take out all the rich data about you, your business name or whatever, give them the business model and what capital is required for what percentage. We'll then take that teaser to a number of investors. If they like what they see, they'll then sign a non-disclosure agreement. We'll then introduce the two parties together and then let them make their own decisions essentially around whether they invest or not, or whether they take the investment or not. Hook them up with a really good lawyer, hook them up with a really good accountancy practice to give them that absolute best advice if they don't have one already, and then help them post that transaction to facilitate the business plan and get to where they want to be in terms of an exit.
Okay, cool. So in terms of geography around, the country or the world, in terms of where you can help people, what geographical area do you work in, Gavin?
So we've got a small contingent up in Scotland. We've got some small visibility in the northwest, and then we've got a large contingent of people across the whole of the Midlands. So from Worcester through to Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, and then we've got a couple of people in London, and then we have quite a strong glut of people in the southwest, mainly because where I'm based.
Yeah, sure. And how is it best for people to connect with you?
I would say bring the office, speak to Andrea. So I tend to be the point of call for any new leads into the business, get to understand their needs, get to understand what they require, understand the pain points, what's keeping them up at night. And then, because I know our guys better than anyone else, is to try and steer them towards one or two individuals that would help them with their needs in terms of geography and their skill set, and then let them have an introduction and see if there's any synergy for them to work together.
Brilliant. Okay, so they can connect with you on LinkedIn, obviously, sort of Gavin Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Your website? What's your website?
It's www.gavinjonesconsultancy or one word.com. Well, that's about to change actually, because Fuel doing our website, so that will change to gjcadvisory.com by the middle of June.
I'm sure if you just Google Gavin Jones Consultancy,
you'll be fine.
Yeah. I've done it myself a number of times.
Yeah.
And you're there. Any final thoughts? Anything else that you think we should be sort of covering off?
I think it's just play to your strengths in this time. So, as a business owner, what do you do best? Don't get yourself embroiled with stuff that isn't going to generate you some income or some profit. So work on the stuff that's going to generate you the best return. So if you're a salesperson, get someone in to do your bookkeeping, get someone in to look at your operations and go and sell hard and get your business into a very quick recovery position. If you're a numbers person, don't try and sell. Don't try, I say it's often to our finance guys, the fish to climb a tree type scenario. It's difficult, don't do it. Get someone else in to do that sales for you. But if you can focus on what you do best in your business, look at bringing other people in part-time, full-time to do whatever else they want to do best, if that makes sense. Bit of a bumble. That will give you the best reward. If you try and do everything, it's the jack of all trades, master of none type scenario. You're going to have very limited impact, unless you're very lucky.
I think some really wise words there, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think we've covered a lot of ground in terms of business growth, exit strategy, customer journey, dealing with things in these difficult times. So thank you very much, Gavin, for spending the time in doing that today. For anybody who'd like to know a little bit more about myself and how we work, then the book here, Dream It, Plan It, Live It. I've got a little part of my give back in this time is if you go to dreamitplanitliveitbook.com/offer, you can get a copy of this book for just £1. It retails more than that on Amazon, but if you'd like to get a copy of that book, then please do so. I don't know how much longer I'm going to leave that offer up, but it's part of me trying to sort of help you get some clarity about what you want to do with your life. So you're here now, where do you want to be, and how are you going to get there? You use people like myself, you use people like Gavin, you know, and that kind of strategic alliance team, us working together for the common good of you and your business to make sure that you can live the life that you want without fear of running out of money, no matter what happens, even in difficult times like this. So we're here to help and support. So if you'd like to reach out, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. But Gavin, thanks very much for sparing the time this morning. It's been great talking to you, and I look forward to catching up with you real soon. So
Thanks, Karl.
cheers for now.
Bye-bye.